Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of CSB, ladies and gentlemen. And today we have a very interesting podcast, to say the least. It's not something that's planned very well, but we needed to get a podcast out this month. And here it is, obviously, because the exam seasons are closing in. We thought, okay, it'll be hard for us to find a guest. So we thought, why not just Moksh and me record one? Because it's actually been a while since it's been just the two of us. I think the first or the time before this, where it was just the two of us, was I think the first
First episode.
um, podcast. Yeah. On our story a few days back, we had said that we needed a few questions to ask each other for the Q&A that we thought this podcast will be based on. And Moksha and me have a few topics that we want to talk about too at the end if we do have some spare time. So, so let's just dive right
Yeah.
in then.
So a lot of the questions we got um, were not very serious, to say the least. But we did have some genuine questions, and so we're going to be responding to those for everyone's sake, to be honest. Um, so the first question we got here was, what goes into making a video? So
Um, Moksh, if I may answer
yeah,
this one. So it's a very lengthy process, and I think we'll try and break it down into three stages. So the first stage is basically um, getting a idea for the podcast that you want to record, or getting a guest. So say it's just something between Moksh and me. So in the first one, it was basically talking about the whole YouTube, the current YouTube scene. Or if we're getting a guest, it's more of basically doing research on what they are an expert at, and then we have someone who is responsible for creating questions for them, and they will create specific questions that we ask them about their sport or their profession or whatever
huge help
they're an
really.
expert
Just
at.
cuts down on our time
Yeah,
a lot.
I mean, yeah,
Shout
I
out to
think
him. I don't know if
before.
you guys know him. His name is
Yeah.
Neil.
No, yeah, no. So Neil did come on one
Yeah,
of our podcasts before. So he's the one
yeah.
who's responsible in getting questions, doing research on the professional that's coming in. And as Moksha rightly said, it saves a lot of our time, because I think by that, mentally, we have more time to like think of how we'll frame the question while saying it. Obviously, it's a very rough thing that was sent, and we have to phrase it a little different, and how we're going to respond to that, how we'll carry the whole thing. And I think one of the biggest things about doing a podcast is that there's a lot of carrying of the conversation that you have to do, because obviously
Yeah.
there are some people who are really good at expressing their views when we ask them a question, and there are some people who are pretty like closed up and aren't ready to basically speak up.
So we have
So I
to
think that's
sort of
where yeah, we're
persuade them
supposed
into
to,
speaking.
yeah, exactly. And we have to like dig deep more. If they say an interesting point, we have to um, pick up or pick part their pick part. I don't think that's a word.
Yeah.
Basically, decode their answer and talk about it more. So that's
Also,
stage one.
one more thing. It's not very easy to get a guest to you know coincide with our timings as well. Mainly because there are many guests, and say with a podcast with two guests, it's quite difficult to find a common time. But when everyone's on board and we finally get off, it's pretty fun, and we genuinely have a good time doing it.
I mean, obviously, both of us know this story. I think so. The thing is, until now, we've got a lot of professionals in the sports field to come and talk. And I think the tough part about that is they're packed as hell. They have no free time if they're not eating or going to the gym. They have training. They have whatnot. So it's really hard to get like just half an hour of their time to come and like talk to us. And I think that's why we getting the whole questions done before they come also, again, as I
Really,
said,
really
is
helps.
a really, yeah, it's very helpful. And I think that's, again, that helps keep the podcast flowing properly. And yeah, I think the biggest group we've had till now to come, I think, was when we did the podcast with Serene,
Yeah,
where it was, I think, a four
4 people.
member
Yeah,
squad that came, 4 people. So again, finding time. So someone's not free, someone has dance class, someone has tuition, someone is in school, someone has to go out. So there are so many factors that are there to decide on what time we can record a podcast. And I think so that's again, as Moksha rightly said, that's a pretty big hurdle. And I think that also accounts for stage one too.
yeah. The next stage is obviously
Um,
recording the podcast. So this takes roughly 30, 40 minutes, and we don't try and stretch it out too long because we don't want it to make it seem a little boring. But there are times where we had to, try and stop the guest from speaking because, we're running out of time but it's genuinely fun when a guest openly, sort of talks about stuff. And that's why it was really fun with uh, more of our, extroverted guests like Rahul sir or Genoa. So yeah, so that is stage two. Now stage three is post recording, and so usually,
tiny thing.
yeah,
For stage two, as you rightly said, there are some people, or as I said before too, that there are some people who like go on speaking, which basically makes our job very, very, very easy because there's not much coming from our end. It's more coming from their end. And I think even while recording, uh, there's a lot of canceling that happens last minute, and it's very frustrating because I think with Krish and Chirag, we rescheduled four,
four
five
five times,
times, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
And I think so, and I think so. The first time we recorded, so we did the full thing. It was perfect. It was on the first shot. We decided a time. Obviously, that deciding the time also was on big hassle. But so we decided that okay, we recorded it. It went really well. It was very. They were enthusiastic. We were enthusiastic. But then someone
bro.
didn't save the file properly, and it got corrupted, and we had to scrap the whole thing, and then we had to reschedule a month later because I think Moksha and me were traveling, and it was a big jumble. And then we came back, and then we decided for a time, but then someone's internet was not working.
Bro,
uh, so we couldn't record, and then we had to again reschedule after a few weeks. I mean, we were chasing Chirag and Krish to come on because they were busy. And I think at one point they were done with us. They didn't want to do anything related to CSB because they freed up their hectic schedule to come and record some 30-minute video. And then finally, after convincing them, they decided to come, and luckily it all went perfectly.
yeah,
Yeah, so and as Mok said, we tend to spend at least 30 to 40 minutes recording. And I think uh, before that, like this is what Moksha and we do before every podcast starts. We call for like 15 minutes before, and we finalize what we're going to talk about, how it's going to go, the intro, the outro. Okay, there'll be like a brief discussion on how the person is. Will we have to talk more, or will they have to talk more? Um, all that. So like the 15 minutes before we say, okay, like say we're going to start recording at 5:30, we call it 5:15. We set up the whole thing so that as soon as the guest comes, because we know that they're so packed, we just directly start. So it's like a 5-minute intro to the guest saying, okay, this is how it's going to go. just answer the questions, think of it like a regular conversation, and you're done. So we don't want to waste the guests' time. So that's why we're ready completely before um, they come. And then I think we move on to stage 3, which
Yeah.
is basically the
So,
okay, Moksha, you can answer this one.
usually when we're doing recording a podcast, I'm the one recording it from my laptop. And so once we finish the meeting, I have to save it. I upload it to a common drive where our editor Rishan, he takes the file and he edits it and he makes the audio good enough for Spotify, makes the video good enough for YouTube.
But before that, Neil comes and watches the entire video, and he gives us feedback on the video, saying, "Okay, was this a good one? Was this a bad one? How could you have improved it? Um, what could you have done better? All that." So we note that down, and we're like,
Yeah,
"Okay, not for next time. We'll keep this in mind. We won't say this. We will say this. We'll be more enthusiastic, all this." And I think that really helps too, because it helps us better our videos daily. And also, while watching the videos, Neil also creates timestamps for them,
yeah,
because if you're watching this on YouTube right now, if you see the red bar, the video's been split up into different sections, which allows the viewer to basically um, say, okay, you know what, maybe we're doing a Q&A right now. So you'll see, okay, the first from 0 minutes to 15 minutes, we're going to be talking about the Q&A. And if you don't want to look at that, you can drag the bar and go to the part which is after the Q&A, which basically makes your experience more easy, or more convenient.
yeah.
And then obviously Rishan edits
He
the
edits the
video, he creates a trailer, like a 130 seconds ish to 1 minute trailer,
trailer,
so
and
that we
we post
post
that
on our stories.
on our stories on Instagram, on the CSP page
It basically builds hype for
around
the
the
podcast.
podcast. And
And
then
then
we have another person, Mayuk, his name is, who uploads everything onto the social media platforms. He takes care of YouTube and he takes care of Spotify. So whatever you're
and he
seeing is,
posts the stuff on Insta too.
yeah,
So he's the one behind our captions. He's the one behind our hashtags. He's handling the social media bit, and he's posting it on YouTube every day. Well, not every day. Whenever it's been sent to him,
yeah,
he sends it exactly on time. Obviously, there are some technical difficulties sometimes, because the file is
yeah,
pretty big. It's a 30-minute file, which is almost, I'd say, 1 GB.
yeah.
I'm not exact.
No, I
Yeah,
don't think it's 1
roughly.
GB, but around, I think 300, 400 MB.
No, I'm saying with the edits,
Okay,
all
yeah,
that. So it's roughly 1 GB ish. So I think the downloading from Mayuk's end and then posting it, using the captions, checking the comments, putting the compartments or sections in the video. So I think that again is something that's very helpful, because I think that cut down our work. So I think as soon as we started, or when we came up with the idea of starting a podcast, I think we decided that, okay, it's something that we can't do everything, right? So Moksh and
yeah.
me have the love for interviewing people, but I think we clearly don't have the love to create questions, post this stuff, make trailers, add intros, outros. So I think that's something that we weren't very enthusiastic about. So we said, okay, you know what? We know a few close people to us who would be willing to do this. And by the way, they aren't paid yet. I mean, we aren't paid yet. So I think the day we make money out of this channel, they'll obviously
Even if
get
we get
their
like
fair
one
share.
rupee, there will be like 5 paise
Yeah,
that
like
goes
we'll
to them.
split it up. 5 paise comes to me, 5 paise comes to Moksh, 5 paise goes to Mayuk, and it like keeps on getting. So we split it equally.
Yeah,
Obviously, we'll decide who gets how much percentage, but right now it's 5 each.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So guys, if you want us to get paid, and if you want Neil, Mayuk, Rishant to get paid, please
Please
subscribe to
promote.
our channel. Yeah,
Purple crab.
post trailers on your stories, like the video, comment on it, send this to your uncle, grandfather, watch, make your dog watch the video.
Yeah,
I don't know, bro. Just get us views. Um, so yeah, I think that's the detailed version of how every one of our or what goes into making one video.
yeah.
Um, I think yeah. So moving on to the next question.
The
I think
second
quite a
question,
few of
yeah,
so I think quite a few people asked this, and it was, who is your dream guest? I think so. It wasn't actually a dream. It was close to being a reality. We were about to get this amazing photographer called
he's a wildlife
Samran
photographer.
Hanan. He's a wildlife photographer. He's amazing. Obviously, we met him one and he was ready to shoot one, and I think we were supposed to shoot one in the beginning of October, but because so he's,
A very
I
busy
mean,
man.
a very, 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 like, if you think, no offense to Chirag and Krisha, I know you guys have hectic schedules. If you think they're packed, you should see Samran's schedule. He has to
Every 2 weeks
train.
he
He
goes to
has to,
another country. So there's
yeah,
this two
basically,
weeks that he's there in Bangalore, and then he just goes somewhere else.
yeah. And he's going to all of these unique places that
Yeah,
I would have loved to talk about. He goes to Norway. He went to Argentina.
North Pole.
He's going to the Galapagos. He's gone to North Pole. In fact, he was one of the
The
last people that
people,
stepped onto North Pole, and the mission was called the
the
Last
last
North.
North. Yeah,
And I think that was in 2017. And this is all we've gotten from speaking to him for, I think, a brief 15
we met him
minutes. And I think
through Rahul sir. So he's one of
Rahul
Rahul
sir,
sir's closest friends, and
yeah,
so he came to our school to do a sort of interview with Rahul sir. So me and G were present there, and we thought, oh my god, we have to get him on our podcast. So we reached out to Rahul sir, asked if Samran sir would be down to doing a podcast, and then we reached to Samran sir, and he's just busy. He's been busy for a while now. So as soon as we can get time to do a podcast with him, we'll definitely put
yeah.
it out.
I'm not sure when, but I can assure you that we will get, even if it's like a 5-second clip with him, we'll get something out. Because I really, really, really want to do a
Yeah,
podcast with him, because he's a hiker, he's a scuba diver, he's just a very extreme man. And
yeah.
I don't know, I would have loved to record a podcast with him, but sadly, due to his very hectic schedule, he had to travel again to the Galapagos. He's looking at some bird or
Yeah.
fish or frog or some animal. And I think, again, that's a story that we'll talk about once we get him on.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's to answer who's our dream guest.
Okay. The next question being, where do you see yourself in a year? As in, what's the future for CSB?
I think I want to be very realistic here. Obviously, I'd love to say, "Oh yeah, we'll be at 1 million subscribers"
Yeah,
or
no, that's
something.
not happening.
But I think right now we're sitting at 69 subscribers. Nice. But uh, I think a good goal should be in 2023 October.
Hmm.
We should be at, hopefully, I'd say
500 to 1,000.
500 subscribers. Yeah, 500 to 1,000 views should increase too. And if your views grow, guys, please
Yeah.
subscribe, like. As I told you, make your plant also watch this. It's fine. We'll get views. Create an account for your plant.
I make my
Um,
pouch watch the podcast, so
yeah, so like anything that will basically get us more views. So I think that's a very realistic goal, although there's again a lot of hard work that we need to put into, because obviously this year, since we'll be writing our
board exams.
it's going to be really hard to like post podcasts frequently, and there'll be a lot of, so that's why if you guys didn't realize, or if you guys don't follow us on our socials yet, we had announced that we'll be cutting down from one podcast a week to one podcast a month. So that's why I think it'll be hard to achieve that realistic goal of getting 500 subscribers. But nevertheless, we'd still want to achieve that. I think the fourth question is, which podcast did you have the most fun recording? And I think
Yeah.
both of us have the same answer here.
It's-
Moksh, would you
it's
like to
Rahul,
answer
sir.
this?
So he is our history teacher, and he's a very, very cool guy. And he's always been this sort of energetic, lively person to be around, and I think that's reflected on the podcast as well. Um, and so we reached out to him saying, "So, do you want to do a podcast with us? Me and Jeep have a podcast, and we would love to have you as a guest." And he was very enthusiastic about it.
At first, when I thought, okay, what, it'll be great to have him on, I thought it would be impossible,
Yeah.
for him to come. So obviously, again, he's a musician. If you guys didn't watch that, go watch it right now. He's a musician. He's an actor. He's a singer. Obviously, I forgot what I said that in the podcast.
Political scientist.
Yeah, so there's like so much. So he's a very interesting person to be around. He's a very fun person to be around, and he has a lot of interesting stories, obviously because of his careers. So I think at first I thought it would be impossible for say yes, because as I said, he has a very hectic schedule, and I think that's one problem with getting guests. As I said before, it's so hard to find the right time, and I think with Rahul sir too, there was a delay.
We had to cancel twice, I think.
Yeah.
One was very, very last minute. Me and Z were waiting on the call for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and he didn't come. He had some other plan. And then the next time, Moksh was a little late and we couldn't record. And then finally, we were able to record. So I'm pretty sure, if you can't tell by now, luck is not on our side. So we're people on, and we're still trying to release a video at least once a month now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think so. Coming back to the main question was why we had fun with him was while we did know that he had so many different sides to him, where he was a musician, he's a teacher. We didn't, because you don't really have the chance to talk about this in school exactly, right? You have to basically focus on what you're studying, this, that, and maybe here and there for like a couple of minutes we'll say, "Hi sir, how's your song going?" or "How did this go?" And I think recently his song went viral, and I think he got 1 million views on his song called Tora Doi. It's a very addictive song. It's a very dancey song too. So like go check that out.
It's a spin on a Assamese folk song, and it uses.
It's a very modern Assamese song, to say the least. And I think obviously we have congratulated him in person. We'd say it here too. Congratulations, sir. But still, so I think that's why we had so much fun, because as we spoke about this before, right? I told you that there are a few people who we get who aren't very open and who are pretty quiet, and we have a few people who are very enthusiastic about the topic, and basically in that one, so we barely spoke, and I think that's what I'd hope you guys would love to see. You'd want more of the guest to talk than us, because I think I mean, Mokshan, you spoke in the first one, I was speaking this one, and we speak in each and every one, and I think you'd want to hear more about the guest than us. So that was a really easy one in terms of stage 2. So as we spoke about earlier, the 3 stages to making a video. Stage 2, it was complicated in terms of the timing and the cancellation. But in terms of the main part of stage 2, which was the recording, that was the easiest one to
Yeah.
do. And I think that was our longest one too. I think that's 37 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it's
Okay,
got the most
moving
views.
on. Yeah, most views, obviously,
It's
because
at
he's
around
basically a
600 right now.
celebrity.
600, 700.
Closing to 700. Okay, so how we structured the Q&A was we'd ask all the main podcast questions first, because I think the you guys sent in quite a few questions, but they were mainly personal, and like in terms of what's your favorite movie, or what's your color, or
Yeah.
not what's your color, what's your favorite color. um, yeah, so I think the podcast questions too, those were I think most of you sent us the same questions, and we just collated them and made like block questions so we could speak about them a lot. Okay, so coming to now personal questions.
Yeah.
Moksh, want to ask the first one?
All right. Jeev, what's one thing you learned from real life experience that you use up till now, up till today?
I think it's basically patience and knowing that if you're putting in the work, it will pay off. So uh, basically connecting it to an example is being patient. One, as I said, you need to have a lot of patience to get people on. You need to have a lot of patience in recording it. There's a lot of work that or there's a lot of patience that you're supposed to have if you want a good podcast. And I think the whole putting in the work and knowing that your results will pay off one day, or they will pay off, I think is basically, if you know that you're doing the right work, and if you know that you're doing what you're supposed to do, you know for a fact that one day it will pay off. Because you see, we didn't directly jump on to um, a podcast with Rahul sir, who is technically a celebrity.
Built up.
We didn't directly jump on, so we like slowly built it up. First, it was just between the two of us. Then we moved on to Ved and Mia, who are also our close friends, and who are really good at basketball. And then we slowly built it up. And in terms of views also, you can tell that the more videos we posted, the more views we got. And I know obviously recently our videos haven't been doing as well as the first few ones. And I think that again goes back to the point of uh, recording one video a month, because of the whole 10th grade thing and exams and boards, all of that. So we haven't really found time, so we're sorry about that. But yeah, what's one thing you've learned most from real life that you find very valuable?
Don't eat yellow snow. Okay, so there's a lot more to
That's
this than it's
very questionable, Moksha. Do
But
tell, go on.
don't do something that you think is suspicious. Basically, don't intentionally go into a trap. So, recently, I think I've been in a lot of situations that seem to be very like something that I feel that's not good for me. So I basically use don't eat yellow snow. Don't do something that's obviously wrong, and don't go out there and do some weird shit.
Yeah, I know. When you first told me that, I realized that, okay, you went to Sikkim. Sorry, Sikkim, it seems. You went to Leh,
Ladakh.
Ladakh,
Yeah.
and there's snow there, and yellow snow usually, you know what it means.
Yeah.
So that was my first reaction, and that's why I was
I
intrigued to
mean,
know what
that's a
you're
good
talking about.
piece of advice as well.
Yeah, guys, don't eat yellow snow, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah.
So you know what? We give pretty good advice, guys. We should
Yeah.
start like our own advising company. Okay, moving on to the next question. What's your favorite movie and why?
Okay. So I don't really have a favorite movie, but The movie that hits the spot every time is probably Chennai Express, and it's probably because I've watched it since I was a kid, and I used to be addicted to the movie. I used to watch it like every day or something.
I
And
mean, it's Shah Rukh Khan, bro. I'm not
Shah Rukh Khan,
questioning
yeah,
your love for the
and
movie.
it's got that bit of a Tamil twist, so it reminds me of like my grandparents and my whole paternal side of the family. So that sort of it just takes me home. So yeah. What about you, Chief? What's your favorite movie?
Mine, it's a very kiddish answer. It's Cars. I've just, I love that movie so
Yeah,
much. I've
that's
watched it 1,000 times, and
probably
I
my
kid
in
you
my
not.
top five. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like I watched Cars 1, Cars 2, Cars 3. I've watched that I don't know how to describe it, but
planes.
there's Mater's Tales Planes too. Um, so it's just a very fun movie, and I think I the reason I like it so much was so I watched it when I was a tiny kid. I was like 4 when I watched it properly. It released in 2006, but I think the first time I watched it properly was when I was 4, and I think I know the whole thing about like going fast, and it was just really wholesome,
Formula
and
One.
um
That's why Jeet
yeah,
likes Formula One, right?
yeah, guys. That's the reason behind my liking for F1. um so I think, yeah, so I have that childhood connection to cars, and I think it'll always be my most favorite movie. um okay, next question. What are 3 things that you can't live without?
Okay. Food, water, and air. I'm a very minimalistic sort of guy. Oh, just I need
That's
the
such a
essential.
political answer, bro. Nah. Okay, but I mean, fair. It's a boring answer, but
I
still an
know.
answer.
I'm a very boring person. Jeet.
For me, I think it would be sports,
Mhm.
whether it's playing sports or watching sports. The two is my friends and family. Like, I genuinely need to
Yeah.
be surrounded by either my friends or my family to like stay sane, because like I have a lot of memories with them. Again, I know, very cliche answer. And 3, I think my phone. I'm not addicted to my phone.
But
Some
yeah,
may say I am,
helps.
but yeah, I mean, in this day and age, you do need your
Need a
phone a
phone.
lot.
Yeah.
Next question. What's your dream holiday destination?
My dream holiday. Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So I'm not gonna go ahead and say Chennai or something
Yeah.
because I think probably Bali. I don't know.
Ooh,
I've
Bali is
just
good. The
always
beaches are
yeah,
amazing.
either Bali or the Maldives. I'm a very beach type person, so I love going
Yeah.
to beaches. I love swimming, and that just gives me a whole vibe. And I've really wanted to go to Bali since I was like a really young kid, and my cousins live in Indonesia as well, so it just makes sense to go to Bali. What about
Yeah,
you, G?
fair. I think mine's either Canada or um forgot the country's name. I think Peru
Peru.
or Paraguay, one of them, or Mauritius, because I've heard Mauritius, the beaches are absolutely amazing. Canada, in terms of their wildlife, nature, the mountains. I've
Hmm.
seen a couple of reels on the Blue Lake, which
Yeah,
looks like the Blue Gatorade
yeah, I've seen
Lake.
that.
And in Peru, Machu Picchu. In Paraguay, or in Paraguay or Uruguay, I'm not sure. There's this mountain range which is basically colorful mountains, and it just looks very scenic. Um, okay, I think second. I think, yeah, that's pretty much it. Second last question. Um, I think we have another 2 3 minutes left. I think we'll wrap it up with
Yeah.
this. Do you guys, or do you have any unpopular opinion?
Um.
If so, what is it?
Yeah. Jeep, I think you should go with this.
I don't really have a unpopular opinion. I just, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a popular opinion, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a couple of people that will agree with me. I think desserts are better than the main course, in my opinion, because I love sweets. I'm
I'm
okay.
not a big
I
sweet tooth.
openly challenge anyone in this entire world to a sweet eating contest. Biscuits, chocolates, candies, Moksha, you know my love for sweets.
Yeah.
You know I can destroy anyone. All right. Take this as a challenge. Message me. Let's make it happen, dude.
We'll
Okay.
post
And
it on
we'll
the
get a free
podcast.
video out of it too. Exactly. um, Moksh, do you have any
No, I
unpopular
do not.
opinion?
I'm the kind of guy who, sort of move along with the herd.
Yeah.
So I think
um,
that's no, Jeet, I think that's enough because we have less than a minute actually.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, a fun episode today, I think.
yeah,
It wasn't, obviously, I thought we'd talk about the two topics that we had in mind, but
yeah.
maybe that's a story for some other time. So, thank you for watching, guys. I think I've said it 2000 times this video. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, show this to
Basically do
your
everything.
plant, dog, just do everything.
Yeah.
Follow us on our socials, watch it on Spotify, watch it on YouTube, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Um,
And if we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. You
thanks for
guys.
watching.